Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is Nana's Space, and my name is Nana. Today I'll be reviewing New Amsterdam Season 4, Episode 18, No Ifs, Ands or Buts. First of all, let me just clap Freema and Ryan for this one. They knocked it out of the park for this one. Probably my favorite episode in season 4. Probably one of the top ones up there. But before I get to Helen and Max, I'm gonna go to the other characters. And personally, I would like to call this episode Vulnerability. All the other characters have had vulnerable moments in this episode where they opened up or looked back or accepted help. I'll go with Lauren and Mia. That Mia had compassion to Lauren and expressed how she'd been in a place where Lauren is at now and that she could help her. Lauren being Lauren, shut her off at the beginning, and eventually accepted and went back and had a chat with Mia. And I like that. I hope that it means that she would not, as she said, fall into that rabbit hole of using other vices to cope, because she tried it before, it didn't work. Drugs, relationship, sex, it didn't work. So fingers crossed she tries something different this time, and who knows where that will lead Lauren. Iggy has now been made vulnerable. He's now lying on the couch. And Martin was like, if you want us to talk, put it in a diary. Good on you, sir. Good on you. Gone are the days where you will sit at work and do what you want, and he'll be at home, doing the domestication it's not at your expense, but at your doing, because you were the one calling the children to be brought in while he sits at home saddled with those children and having to work. So, well, if you make your bed, you have to lie in it, unfortunately. I like the open window to Floyd's father-son relationship that did not exist. I think it's a great segue from Lynn's conversation with him about his father not being there, and him finding a picture of himself and his dad in the car, and that patient of his who was overbuilt, Fortis was overbuilt, and the connection that Floyd made with that gentleman. I really liked the relationship. It almost gave a father-son feel that I think Floyd really missed, and at the end you could see that the wheels were turning. He thought, maybe I should look for my dad. So who knows? Maybe we'll see Floyd's dad this time round. The mom is such a strong, powerful woman with these children. I don't know whether she raised all of them by herself. I don't know, or whether Floyd is a different father, has a different father to the other siblings. I don't know, but we'll see. But that again, he was made vulnerable in that situation, and it led to something more organic. So I quite like that. I really hope to see where that goes. When I saw the car, I was like, oh no, is he going to chase Lynn and Dr. Baptiste? Like, no. But it took a different turn. And for it, Max and Brantley finally working together very well, mom and son, to try and uproot Fortis. So the Trojan horse that Max has set. Let's see what fruit that bears for next week. We'll see. Again, we all don't want Fortis around. She's been around one too many episodes, so fingers crossed this is the end of it. We don't want to see her anymore, but let's see how that goes. Now, let's get into Helen. I think this episode was Helen's episode. And the vulnerability displayed. So just from the aesthetics, you know, Helen is always dressed up. Even when she had, what's her name? The young lady, her niece around. She was always dressed up at home with this lady. I never saw her wearing anything casual, already made up. Even when she went to her bedroom to go and tell her to come to work, she was nicely dressed up, everything. But to see her in a domesticated setting, this episode, barely any makeup. She didn't even have her earrings on. She was wearing a cardigan and a pair of trainers. I've never seen Helen in trainers before. That's how much they stripped her. So they really physically exposed her vulnerability without saying much. So you see, apparently her motor skills, they alluded to the fact that there's been a time jump. So things have come a long way. She's now able to cook. And as people pointed out, the camera angle made sure that rock was blinding all of us. Okay, cutting the avocados. I think the ring is even bigger for not the lumen of it, but the size of it. It's a huge ring. I don't know whether anyone has found what ring Georgia had yet. I've not gone back to look. I think I'll spare myself that torture. And she made food for Max. And Max, you know, as always, very supportive, expressed how he appreciated the progress that she's made. And then we see her go into her therapy, struggling with mentioning or naming the things and the frustration. And the lady and her therapist was like, the lady that was supporting her, she was like, just day one. Like you don't expect to get all this right. Do you remember when she went and played euchre with those cancer patients? And they said, oh, have you played it before? And Helen said, well, I'm kind of sharp. So things come easy to her from that point of view. So for her to be in a position where even the basics that she took for granted, she struggled with, it really dawned on her that this there's not going to be an easy ride. And the therapist was like, well, in my opinion, I found things work easier if you bring your partner. Why don't you bring Max along next time? So she went to Max, and I thought she was going to say to Max, do you want to come? But she just went and said, I want to say hi. Perhaps because she was embarrassed about it. She was embarrassed about it. Gave him a hug, and Max didn't think too much of it. And Helen went. So then Max bumped into Helen's therapist and was like, I said to Helen to bring you along. Well, maybe when she sees you, she'll tell you. So then the dots, Max put the dots together and realized that Helen, maybe when she came, she wanted to say something and she didn't say. And that, the conversation they had outside the therapist's office, oh my God. The frustration in her speech. She had to be made that vulnerable for her to open up to Max. Max sees her. She's an amazing person, all that Max said. That's all true. But equally, Max did not see her. And that's what she wanted to make it clear to him. That there's that perfect persona that she has presented to Max. And perhaps the question is Max getting married to that perfect persona? And if she doesn't get better, would that be a deal breaker? Like, would Max reconsider and say, actually, well, maybe, that ring I gave you, maybe I should call it back. But Max kept saying, no, I love you, I want to be here for you. You're not broken. She is clearly broken. You're not broken. But we've never heard those words come out of her mouth. And it took her being put in that position, being stripped bare, for her to admit that she is genuinely broken. And she feels like the persona that she has attracted Max to will be one that, if it doesn't change to the perfect version, will push him away. But he said, no, I'm going to be here for you. I love you. I want to be here for you. What do you mean I'm not going to support you? And how sad she got. I've come across patients who have had expressive dysphagia from strokes, and the frustration exhibited. Anyone who did, I don't want to cry, but anyone who did not shed a tear in this episode, I watched it once and I couldn't bear the pain of her in pain, so I fast forwarded her things. And then I went back took my time and watched it. And Prima, you are one talented actress. I wish you all the best in whatever you do. I'm sure you do great, because we felt your pain, we felt your angst, and for Max to sit there and witness that and not run, kudos to you. And yet, after bearing her soul to him, she walked off. This is not the first time she's opened up to Max and then said, oh, I think you should go home, when she wanted to go to London. And Max said, no, I've come this far, I'm not going anywhere. So, you know, it wasn't a one-trick pony. Where the argument they had in London about family clearly didn't deter Max. He's still here. He didn't went and bought a ring. God knows how long he's had a ring. Who knows whether he even had it before London. Who knows? But that did not deter him. And he allowed her to be. He didn't follow her, pursue her, and say, hey, come on, I should go with you. She went to her class or her session, and in the end, she came home. And the little detail. So Max was clearly swamped with paperwork. God knows what he was doing. And immediately Helen got into the door, he closed the laptop, and she had typed what she wanted to say to Max, that, you know, sorry I didn't allow you to come to my session with me. I was embarrassed and you should have come with me. In other words, she was just apologizing. So her posture, you know, this Helen always showed her up, like carrying that shame in your body. She was slouched, she had her hand over her hand over the other. Max held her hand and sat her down, and he was like, Helen was like, would you come with me? And she didn't even finish the sentence, and Max was like, yes, always, like, no ifs, ands, or buts. I like that line, like. And he was like, oh, we're gonna make it like a strip poker. It reminded me of Love and Basketball. Anytime you shoot a hoop and you miss, you take an item of window. So he was like, anytime you mess up, I'm gonna need your shirt back. And that made her smile. She was so vulnerable, so cute, so shy. And she said it, if you look at the camera angle, whenever Helen was saying, Max was literally miming. Like, it was just so sweet. Like, the scene partnership, it was so beautiful. And she got really upset. Oh my God, I try not to cry here. But she was really upset. And you could see the pain in her voice changing from that shamed-ridden Helen that walked into the room to accepting that Max is here to stay, to allowing him to support her in that no ifs, ands, and buts, to actually saying it fully. And Max got choked up, and he was like, I knew you could do it, I knew you could do it. You know, it was just, oh, I absolutely loved the ending of this episode. I hope that anyone who is struggling with this condition will watch and perhaps find solace in the fact that they are being represented on TV, and that maybe people who misunderstood them before can find a way to empathize and fully appreciate what they're going through. And for it to be done in such a genuine, vulnerable way, that wasn't just brushing off the storyline just because, but they actually took time to show the progression to the end. I loved it. Oh gosh, I'm getting a mess here. I loved it. I remember seeing a gentleman who came with some carers, and he couldn't talk at all. He had complete aphasia. He couldn't talk at all. And his carers just out and left. And I asked him, like, oh, we've just finished our shift. We can't look after him anymore. And the fact that he couldn't talk and say that he's not happy or he's upset about what is happening, and he was just, you could see the pain on his face, but he just couldn't say anything. To those people, I hope that they find comfort in knowing that there are shows and characters who are able to empathize in their display, that there are actresses who are willing to take on such burdens and portray it in a genuine way that is not brushing over or being condescending or being just genuinely displaying it in a way that allows those who haven't gone through it to sympathize, and those who are experiencing or live with relatives with it to empathize. You know, I hope that it generates conversations more than anything. And please, no ifs, ands, or buts. Freeman needs to be given that Emmy, okay? Yesterday, okay? They should have given that to her yesterday, but we'll see. They need to. If they don't give it to her, nominate her, because this was brilliant acting. This was brilliantly done. I take my hat off to you, lady. You've always been in our heart, and you keep embedding yourself even further. We love you for it. Let's see what the next episode brings along. Until then, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.